Um, so welcome. We're going to start, we're going to have a speaker, but then there was a lot that we wanted to get done in this meeting. So we figured that we needed all the time. So I'm going to start out with the survey committee. As you know, there was a delay in the release of the survey. So we're kind of a month behind schedule, but it was released, I think
The 11th.
of February. And we've had a very good response, and we don't want to go into any kind of data details other than what we're seeing in terms of numbers. So Brian, do you want to give us the latest?
I can't even give a little teaser on just like 2 little data points, or no teasers even.
Harmless and little.
Yeah, so it was launched on the 11th. Last time I looked, it's over 100 responses now.
Wow.
When I had looked at it earlier in the day, it was 97. So a few have been added throughout the day. Our universe is about 400 houses, 400, I think 415, Matt, if I'm not mistaken. So that's about a quarter of the houses. For what it's worth, a little teaser, Ellen can cover her ears. 75% of them rated the importance of stormwater management either a 4 or a 5, or the issue, let's say, either a 4 or a 5 out of 5. So that's quite a few households rating it highly. Of course, we'd expect the early responders to be the ones that care more about the issue. So we don't want to read too much into that. For what it's worth, about the same percentage also say it's been a problem for 5 or more years. So a long-standing problem for those households. Only 12 out of 97 did not put the number of their house in the survey. Remember, the street name was required, but your house number was optional. So, 80% of them, 90% of them almost are putting their house number on there. So that's good. That helps us with the analysis, I think, further down the line. I believe, Courtney, we had set the deadline as the 25th, theoretically.
I think 26th, but that was really a
Yeah.
soft deadline in our mind.
Yeah, exactly.
We would, well, by the way, I republished it on the listserv just this afternoon, and I think that'll produce another little burst. We'll probably do that a couple more times, and I'm not sure. Then our plan is, once we hit that 25th, well, we talked about the three of us not waiting until the 26th, but a couple of days before that, backing it up to like the 22nd or so, and start trying to identify the homes that haven't responded. The homes that haven't responded, and we'll get help from the nice folks at Town Hall and figuring that out. And then trying to figure out how to reach out, make reasonable efforts to reach out to those folks.
Yeah, and that may include giving hard copies to the ones who have not answered so far. And we'll be able to narrow that down to not give hard copies to everyone, because we have most of the street addresses in the survey responses that we've got.
So one of the things we were thinking about, and I spoke with Matt, who is going to give us a list of people who have requested the town journal with hard copy, thinking that maybe those are people who like hard copy better, or don't have, aren't on their computers as much. And so then we can kind of cross-reference those addresses with the addresses that we already have responses from, to try and reach out to them. And then we can send them a hard copy or deliver a hard copy. The issue is kind of the post office these days, and also how would we get the survey returned. So we think that if people could drop it off at the town hall through the slot, or we could put a box outside, or call one of us. I know Brian doesn't like that idea.
How about helping hands? If well, two things. One is I get the paper journal, but I don't need a paper thing. I live on my computer. I just like the paper journal. So you can cross me off that list. But in terms of the drop off return, maybe we can have the helping hands people or teens or someone. But I think if someone would pick it up, I mean, for busy people that helps, and for like older people who kind of didn't want to go out, it's so cold or whatever. So just like make no barriers to returning it, that kind of thing. I mean, I'd go pick up a few if you guys really need, like, just, you know,
I think that's
it's good walking exercise. You know?
Yeah, I think that we can figure that part out. I doubt that there's gonna be very many people who want it picked up, you know, if it's.
Right. It's probably a handful.
Yeah.
We can.
But you don't
Divvy it
know
up.
some of the, right, but if people didn't give their number, you don't know if they are returned it, they've completed it or not, right?
Right.
Right,
That's true.
that's true. So basically, when we follow up, we'll have another announcement this Friday in the town blast, right, Matt?
Yes, I'll be sure to include it in my email blast this Friday, and I can do it next Friday if you want to. If you know, like Courtney was saying, if it's a soft deadline, give people at least that the other weekend or something as an extended deadline. Whatever you want me to do.
Okay.
Basically.
So what we're going to then do is look at the data, look at the responses, the crosstabs, try and target what streets and what areas seem to be having the greatest problem, if in fact if it's not individual by household, but by street or areas of a street. And then start to write our report, which we will post on the, our plan is to post on the town website and get it out to as many people as possible. And originally, we were planning to have a town forum in March, which obviously would be postponed now. So that I was hoping we could do it in April, and that we would have enough data and information, a report that we could talk about that at the town forum, along with obviously other issues, which I want to talk about sort of later on the agenda. So that's, does anybody, Courtney or Brian, do you have anything else about we feel good because like our hard work is, we have a little lull until we can collect the information.
No, I would add, I don't think, unless Brian or Ellen, you correct me if I'm wrong, none of us have gotten any negative, like direct communications about it. People just filling it in. There's been no
Controversy.
Yeah, so that's good.
I haven't heard any controversy either. Yeah, that was nice to see, or not see, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Michael was asking whether people were writing comments on the surveys.
Yeah, there were a couple, well, there's at least one open-ended question at the end. And that, you know, just glancing quickly at the data, that was a lot of people have used that to write stuff.
Great.
So that will be a little harder to analyze since it's not quantitative, but we'll find a way to pull that in as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next are rules and regulations.
Yeah, so I could start as a full-fledged member of the Rules and Regulations Committee.
And Ed, I'm sorry, Ed, I'm taking notes, so maybe if you and Courtney can just do the general speaking.
Sure.
Okay. I can't multitask like that very well.
All right. Happy to start off anyway, and invite either of you to jump in. So we have we've done some collecting. We may or may not be done with the collecting phase of our project. And I think we'll know that better once we've spent a little more time reviewing and comparing notes on what we have. We had a call over the weekend, and we kind of allocated responsibility for review and analysis of the materials we've collected. What we have collected falls into various buckets. There are somewhat relevant federal regulations, which we have parked for now, thinking that they really are the least relevant. There are state and county regulation and Montgomery County regulations, the latter of which is obviously important. We just want to make sure that we understand those for purpose of context, so that we can then think about what might we do in Somerset that would be different from what the county requires and permits. We've also collected, well, let me back up. One of the resources I came across in a Google search is the Stormwater Managers Resource Center, which initially I was all excited about that. I thought this looks like exactly what we need. This will be the a real trove of information here, and it is. It seems a little dated though. So, but in any event, we will continue going through those materials. What that contained is potentially useful, including, I think it's 2 examples of model regulations that are out there for municipalities to consider. So we have those. We also have examples from the 2 other towns in the area that I think were identified in one of our early meetings. So we have the Chevy Chase regulations, which we've done some review and analysis of, as well as the Garrett Park regulations. We may want to fill in and find some examples from Courtney. You may have actually, you may have found some other examples from Maryland. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, so as it turns out, there is a Maryland model ordinance that all county and municipalities, I think, have to follow, and it's a minimum of, protection that all the counties and towns have to follow. So we're going to cross-check that, of course, against the Garrett Park and the Chevy Chase, but I expect they more or less follow this model ordinance. The Montgomery County one does, and the Montgomery County ordinance has the most, has the most meat on it. The Maryland at the state level is not as pertinent to us as a town as the county one is. But whatever we do, we should be referencing. Anything that we propose doing is going to have to be done in accordance with the Maryland model.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing we haven't run to ground entirely, and and I don't know, and Matt, if you have any insight into this, and Ellen, we reached out to you about this, but possibly want to reach out to the town attorney on. So one of the things that we'll want to understand is, what can we do? What can Somerset do? My review of the town charter, which I gather was issued pursuant to Montgomery County law, is that we can do pretty much whatever we want in order to protect homes and do all the good things that a town wants to do. So the charter anyway is very, very broad. I think what we would want at some point is, assuming that we will want to go down the regulation road, is some insight from the town attorney that, in fact, yes, Somerset can do what the charter can exercise all the powers that the charter purports to reserve for the town or create for the town. So that's something we'll want to nail down at some point.
Sure. Maybe what I could do is bring it up with the council to ask the town attorney to write a memo on basically what we would be able to do and what the mechanisms for that would be. And he actually is the town attorney for the town of Chevy Chase as well, so he has some inside baseball knowledge on that. So I think
that would be great, Matt. I'm thinking it might be, well, one, it might be easier and maybe ultimately cheaper for us if we start off with a conversation with him, and then we could decide whether or not we actually need a memo. If it's straightforward, and his advice, his counsel is that, there is no legal restraint under Montgomery County law, and I doubt under state law that would limit what Somerset can do, then we'll just go with that. It may be more complicated than that. So for example, can we assess fees if we want to assess fees for, associated with studying the rainwater, potential rainwater effects of proposed construction? I mean, that maybe it gets more complicated, but anyway, it might be easier to start with a call and then we can determine what we want rather than just have them go off and write a memo.
Okay, sure.
Just before that, I had reached out to Jeffrey when you posed the question, which I think I sent you his response, was that what he wanted to do, he said there's a process and you should send the email to the council liaison and copy Jeffrey and Matt.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
All the
Yeah.
terms and
Oh, okay. Yeah, happy to
Yeah.
do that. Happy
But
to do that.
maybe the inquiry can be, as Ed said, just super straightforward in case it is, even though we go through
Yeah.
those channels. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we know how lawyers like to run
I would
people's
add,
bills.
just sorry, Ed, I would add that, it's clear from the state level down that they were contemplating that municipalities might want to have this kind of ordinance because it does refer to ordinances being enacted by counties and municipalities. So
Yeah,
that's a different question than what our town laws permit, but at least from the state down, it was contemplated.
yeah, and that one of the,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I was just asking, does the town have any regulations that are different than the county or the state?
Yes. Generally speaking, with building codes, for example, the county has its own rules, and then the town, in general, the county has a set of rules, and the town can make stricter rules than the county. The town can't necessarily make more relaxed rules than the county.
No, I
That
understand.
makes sense.
But in terms of stormwater, are there any current regulations in the town of Somerset that are stricter than the county?
We don't have any
So they're not.
code that's related to stormwater specifically.
It just
Like what some of
referred-
your subcommittees are looking at, there might be some indirect things that are related, but at the moment, no.
It
Okay.
explicitly refers back to the Montgomery County Section 19, which is the stormwater provision. So
Yeah, maybe might make sense. We spent a little time over the weekend talking about what's our contribution and how do we achieve it. So the way we're thinking about it is as follows: that we're still in kind of phase one, gathering resources and understanding them, and I think we're going to do some kind of digesting of them. Hopefully coming out of that process, we'll have some sense of what the regulatory options are for us out there. And, we are going to look beyond Maryland. So, one of the things that we picked up were sample regulations from other jurisdictions. And I think I got these off of that Stormwater Manager Resource Center. So one happens to be Arlington, Virginia. One is, I think it's Santa Monica, California. Another is Grand Traverse, Michigan. It was a bit of a mishmash, but we'll get a sense from that. So ultimately, I think our goal is to, one, understand what we can do, two, understand what are the regulatory tools that are out there. And doesn't mean we can't create one of our own, but hopefully we'll have kind of a library of regulatory options. And then I think it's a matter of doing the rest of our work and getting a sense of what is it that we want to do, and then coming back and helping the committee decide, all right, how can we accomplish this by regulation, if that's the way we want to go. That's the list. I think, Julie and Courtney, did I capture that accurately, how we're thinking about our mission? All right, I'm getting the
So.
thumbs up from Courtney, so I'll take that as well from both. Excellent. All right. Thank you to both of you.
100%. Woo.
All right.
Does anybody have
that's-
any questions?
That's what we're doing.
I would just add one thing, and maybe this is putting the cart before the horse. But I think if and when you start to think about additional regulations, everything always comes down on some level to dollars and cents. And so some sort of analysis of what the cost it would the town would incur to also take on that regulatory responsibility.
Yeah.
As I said, that's maybe a ways off, but just putting that out there.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
glad
good
you
point,
mentioned
yeah.
that. It's something, that we also talked a little bit about that. And, one idea we've had around was, which I assume is a possibility, is that whatever, enforcement mechanism we adopt, if any, we could shift the cost to the homeowner and say, the cost for doing the expansion or building a new home has to include your bearing the cost that the town will incur in making a determination as to whether, what you have in place will comply with our standards or regulations or whatever it is. But yeah, that's something we'll certainly keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I agree with Ed. And I guess the other thing I would just add from our committee is for the other subcommittees, as you're doing your work and thinking, some of it's your fact finding or et cetera, research, but then in terms of implications, recommendations, be thinking what, if any, would be any kind of regulatory role that Somerset should have or play or whatever, so that, we can have input from all of you in terms of what to do with what we found, other than, oh, isn't this interesting and fascinating, that what we've learned. So, just be thinking, kind of looping in at some point down the road, presumably, if it's relevant at all, I don't know. If there's rules and regs kind of implications for what you would like to do from your subcommittee. That's all. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. Is that all for rules and regulations?
Okay, I think so.
Okay. Construction impacts?
Yes, that's going to be me.
Yeah.
I think that has to be you, since you've done pretty much all the work of our committee.
Okay. Well, so I spent some time, and I don't remember last time. I know I put out a document with some numbers on stormwater runoff from construction. And since then, I ran some numbers comparing what the town of Chevy Chase has some very stringent regulations. And I sort of cranked the numbers using their rules. And what I found was that it's not like the town of Chevy Chase's numbers are always more stringent than ours. So it seems like in some, and I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but in some cases it might be a little bit more strict, and in some cases it might be less strict. But we kind of felt like overall, it probably the bigger question is not so much what the rules are, but whether they're about these waivers that are being granted. And I forget what percentage of the town of Somerset of the construction has the waivers now, but it's a lot. I don't know if Jan remembers that, or Julie, but it's maybe at least 50%. Julie's nodding.
It's 50%.
Yeah, there's some significant waivers on what water they have to account for. So we're sort of we've been looking at the numbers from the water, the gallons and stuff, the amount of runoff. And we were like, what else do we need to be thinking about for construction impacts? And I spoke to Brian Pilot, who is an architect in the town. And he's not a water expert, but he said that he's a commercial architect, and every project that he does, like the very first thing that they have to do is worry about stormwater. And but he had and basically he said that the main thing to look at is impervious surfaces, which is what we're looking at. And so the thing about construction, it's not just that the houses are somewhat bigger, but there's really no limitation on the driveways and the porches and the other impervious surfaces that are having a huge impact. And there are regulations, like I said, but they're not always being met. And then there's, in terms of the regulation, I'm jumping all over the place as I'm thinking about it. In terms of the regulation, Ed, I'm always thinking about one thing that we're talking about is a lot of the things that you can do to take care of the water, such as rain gardens or dry wells, do need maintenance. And that does cost money. Maybe Julie was saying this. I'm sorry, Julie, the other Julie. Julie Abrams, not Julie Greenberg, sorry. Julie, you were saying that we need to be thinking about the regulations, and I've been thinking about that it seems like one that's come up. I think that in the town of Chevy Chase, they require some kind of annual maintenance or checks, or maybe even the town does it. So that's something else that could both cost money, but also be something that we could do that could control things better.
So Chaya, sorry, can I just, because I'm taking the notes, I just want to ask two questions to make sure I understood. One is who grants the waivers? And when you said checks, did you mean money checks or like go and check? And I'm not being facetious. I'm just trying.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant going and checking, right. And who grants the waivers? It's the Montgomery County. Whatever their, yeah, it's the county, since we're under their regulations right now. Brian, he had one interesting sort of global comment, which was that he said the problem is cumulative. Like it's, we're looking at this and we're saying, there's only 3 or 4 tear downs a year in Somerset, but over the year, he's saying that probably when the town was built, this was not an issue at all, but slowly the house, the footprints have been getting bigger, the footprints of impervious surface, and now there's a problem. So it does add up. And I think that anything that we do is going to have to address not just construction, but the existing houses as well, because that's, the construction is small on an annual basis. And it's not, it's very complex. What was I going to say? And yeah, that was, but he sort of had an interesting take on it, but it's just more about looking at the impervious surfaces. And I realized that one number I'd like to look at, and I don't know if this number exists, is whether there's any data in the town about how many houses have had major reconstructions at any time. Matt, I don't know if Matt know about that or anyone else, from just to be curious to know from the beginning.
Oh, I guess I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. Are you saying over a certain amount of time, or just
Well,
in
really
the history of Somerset?
Yeah, in the history of Somerset, like maybe, I don't know, maybe since 1960. A lot of the houses were built in the 50s. I don't know if any of them were built after that, but just, yeah.
Well,
the last 30 years might be helpful.
We probably have that data. I don't know how easily accessible it is,
Okay.
but I can start to look for you.
Okay. That was just a thought that I had. I don't have any. Does anyone have any questions?
So, hold on. I just unmute myself.
I have a question. Do we,
Yeah.
I mean, if there were interests, how would one do a percentage of lot covered by impervious surfaces survey, a census?
Oh, well.
I mean, it's physically, you go to the place and you map it out, right? You say that's an impervious driveway.
Right, but
that's
I mean, a
pool,
lot of
that's
people have
porch.
that information, like if they had any, well, yeah, I don't know how many people have the plans for their lots, or if Somerset
No,
has.
I was wondering if anyone, I assume we would have to go do it in some standardized way.
Well, if I can, I mean, for some houses, we could get that information from, actually we could get, if we could get the building permits from the town for all the permits that were approved for any kind of small or large renovation, those should include plans from which there would be a zoning calculation of the percentage of lot coverage. But you'd also have a plan where you could add in things not covered by lot coverage, like patios and walkways and driveways. But for anything that hasn't been part of a building permit process, large or small, I don't know that there's any way to get that. Because there's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
there's,
is it $10,000 or $100,000 to survey the 400 houses and get a percentage of lot covered by impervious surface?
100 or more, I don't know, but 10, I can't imagine it's 10,000. I'm sure it's.
I don't
way
either.
more, know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't
It's
think
not
we
that
have.
important, I don't think. I'm just curious about it, like if we, or even just a really quick and dirty kind of thing, like how many teardowns have there been in the history of Somerset?
No, but if it's not teardowns, right? If Brian Pilot is saying is it's a cumulative effect of impervious surfaces,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
then we have no clue
Yeah.
whether that's true or false. We don't know whether 10% of lots or 80% of lots are covered. We don't know whether new housing
well,
has a
we're not-
different ratio
yeah.
than old housing. We
Yeah.
got no information. I'm just wondering if we had the will and the backing of the town council, would we, and how much would it cost?
if, it's something that I think might be worth the investment because it is the biggest variable in terms of production of runoff. But the question is, what are you going to do with that information? Because unless you change or supersede in Somerset the zoning regs, it's very difficult to use lot coverage. It's a very weak read on which to base a regulation under current definitions of lot coverage. You'd have to expand the definitions. That's what Steve Serco was proposing a year and a half ago. And his proposal, I took it and tried to play with it using a couple of the building plans I had on hand, sitting around. And I found that even redefining lot coverage as he proposed would not have changed it would still have come in under the zoning requirement of no more than 30% of a lot being covered. And unless you can figure out a way to either, to redefine or change that to 25% or something, it's like, what is that information going to get you? So it's one of these things that I think you have to figure out what you're going to do when you find out something and how you're going to redefine lot coverage, and would the town want to make some move on that? That is a really big zoning change.
And I think in general, I would just presume yes, I agree with Julie that, we have to there has to be some major reason we do it. And if it's for anything new or renovations, we could say forthcoming, henceforth, if we change the rules or regs or what have you, we could, use it that way. But I don't think just generically, just off the top of my head, I don't think it would be appropriate to say, hey, everybody in town, even though, you're not doing a renovation, you're going to have to do some remediation and have less impervious surfaces. So I think it would be more for going forward, which implies therefore it's a nice to know, but if it's not going to change, it's like when you ask for, a doctor to do a test, it's only if you're going to do something with the information should you be invasive, right? So, invasive, this isn't invasive, it's just that concept. So I guess I would kind of wonder if it's worth it, if it's only for the status quo, because unless we're going to do something with every house.
But I guess here's what I'm feeling like. New builds or teardowns are 3 or 4 houses a year, right? That's not the way to get the answer. I'm also very blind. I have no idea what's driving the problem, if at all. If I hear that lot coverage of impervious surfaces is a main driver, I have no data. I have no idea whether we're good, bad, or awful, whether my neighbor is super and I'm terrible, or the other way around. So without that, I don't know how I get to anything like a policy recommendation, if that in fact is the key driver to rainwater. Now, if it's not, then fine, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's not talk about different driveways unless you really want to for environmental purposes. Let's just take it off the path. But without it, I just don't feel like I know anything at all. I feel blind.
Well, we are looking kind of at average houses and trying to compare like a redone house and we're looking at the impervious surfaces and then comparing it to what was there before.
But
So
how?
that's
Are
one thing
we
we've
don't
done.
have that data.
Well, we're
We
coming up
do.
with sort of hypotheticals using some averages and that are.
That's not data,
Well,
though.
all I can do, I'm going to make you know, when I do a presentation at the end of the subcommittee report on other impacts, I'm going to make a sort of detour into the issue of construction. So, because Haya and I have been sort of bouncing ideas off, you know, off each other. And I can, you know, basically the bottom line on those 3 to 4 houses a year, which are the ones that you could do something with in terms of lot coverage. Because as Julie said, you're not going to people who have existing patios that they put in 20 years ago and saying, well, you got a lot of lot coverage here. It's a lot of impervious surface. This is producing a lot of runoff. You got to take it out. It's only those 3 to 4 that you're working with really each year. And if the bottom line on those is if for these hypotheticals that we're sort of playing around with, just to get an idea of this, of the amount of runoff, if the county regs are applied to them and they don't get waivers, despite the increase in the amount of impervious surface that that is represented by a bigger house, they can produce less overland runoff than the house that preceded them on that same lot that had some share of its runoff going to the storm drain or to one of the sewer systems in town and off the roof. Amazingly enough, it's a pretty stringent standard if it's kept to. So really what the issue of the lot coverage is when it precludes putting in the remediation that's necessary. And usually that's not really from the lot coverage itself, it's from setbacks. So sometimes a reconfiguration of the same lot coverage to consolidate instead of having these separate structures can reduce the setback limitations and allow you to put in the dry wells you need. So this is a real complicated problem, but it's really only 3 to 4 houses.
Yeah, I'm meant to say, I was going to jump in a second ago, that what Julie just said, that it's not just about the impervious surfaces, but if you're going to do it, you have to manage them. And that's the point. And if you're going to put in more of a patio, you have to have something to account for that water. But that's what she said. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we've talked a lot of time about, you know, the next generation of driveways, right? You know, my driveway has to be replaced probably in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I may willfully choose something better than what's out there. But, you know, if I were over some trigger, maybe the town should force me to think about that when I'm about to do some construction. So I don't think it's only 3 houses a year.
Right.
I really don't
Provide
think
you
we
an
should limit our
incentive.
scope.
No, and I was going to say, I'll get to in my report, I can provide $20,000 of a tax rebate. I found
I'll take
for
it.
when you want to do your driveway, that's available whenever you're ready.
Well, I mean, carrot and
No,
stick
so I mean,
here. Carrot and
that's
stick.
the carrot
Yeah,
of
so-
getting all that work
Yeah.
out. You know,
And
work
Michael,
out.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a couple of thoughts. One, you know, yeah, I share Michael's, I don't know, frustration or concern about feeling ill-equipped to be making, you know, judgments about what is the exact nature of the problem, what is the extent of it, and then what is the right solution. And, you know, we got a lot of really talented, smart people on this committee, you know, some of whom, you know, like Julie, come at this with some subject matter expertise. But, you know, this brings me back to a question I raised in an earlier meeting, that is whether we would benefit from and maybe even need, you know, the assistance of, you know, an expert, you know, civil engineer with expertise in this area to guide us. And so I just throw that out there again as a thought I keep coming back to. So let me give an example. So, you know, we heard a perspective on the value of dry wells in, you know, an area like ours from Mark. I think he was the guy from the committee. Julie, you seem to have a very different view of them than he did. At least that was my impression. You know, I did a little bit of research, and, you know, from what I saw, I said, yeah, there are real questions about their utility and, you know, where there's a lot of clay and all that. I don't know. And I don't have any confidence in my ability, frankly, to ultimately make a judgment as to whether Mark's right or Julie's right or this article is right or that article is right. And I certainly wouldn't be comfortable with our prescribing something requiring dry wells without being comfortable that that's the right solution. And it's mostly comes out of my own, feeling, kind of ill-equipped. I'm pretty comfortable when it comes to regulations, but when we talk about civil engineering, I start to get pretty uncomfortable. So, and whether or not it's a survey that Michael's talking about, or getting something else that will provide us additional information on which we could be proceeding. So anyway, I'm not inviting necessarily discussion about that, but I throw that out there again, because that's a thought I keep coming back to. The other thing I was going to say, I think now has already been said, which is maybe there are things we can do for existing structures. Maybe, if we decide that this is a severe enough problem, it may be worth providing financial incentives to homeowners to replace their hardscape driveways with, with material that would, I'm blanking on the name of it, but permeable. I don't know, what is that the word for water?
Semi-permeable.
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, maybe that's something that we want to keep in the back of our minds as an option, as a potential solution.
And no, thanks, Ed. I just want to add in terms of Michael, your comment, I guess I feel like probably it would be a fairly large expense, and what would be probably better, and therefore maybe not much appetite for it, possibly. And then I guess the other thing would be that we could, do whatever carrots, sticks, recommendations, expertise, whatever, for prospective things, even not knowing that. I agree. I love data. I totally wonk out and seriously love it. But I'm just wondering, I'm, cognizant of, what are the cost implications, and is it going to change our decision? And I don't think it would necessarily, we might not know exactly the scale of the problem. I agree with that. That's true. We don't, if we don't have that data, but we could still say we would benefit from, we know for a fact that if you have X more impervious semi-permeable surface, impervious surface, you benefit X for stormwater, and therefore we're going to do some carrot or some stick or what have you. So I guess I don't feel we have to do that kind of survey, more on a cost basis. If everyone says, yeah, well, let's spend all that money, great, but we're all paying the taxes for it. So I guess I would just, that's sort of what I'd come down to.
Somerset is really not different from many other places, truly. Arlington County, you mentioned a place that you're looking at for in terms of regulation. Arlington County, I just talked to a watershed manager there today because he was recommended by a friend. They have the same problems, the same topography, the same soils, the same residential development on the same size lots, small. DC has the same problems. This is, I don't think we need to pinpoint how many driveways could be replaced and might be replaced and all. We know there's some driveways that could be. There's always going to be some. I think it's a question of assuming is gleaning the recommendations from people in areas that have coped with the same sorts of issues that we are coping with, and doing the best we can using survey results to say, here are some real hot spots in the town. And we see that there are, there don't happen to be any people who have put in rain gardens here. They're all in other places. Well, what about some rain gardens, and how could they fit in? And should there be some public assistance and beyond the Montgomery County, where the town also provides some assistance? Maybe there's a house that was constructed that, even though we can't deal with most houses that have been, put in place, maybe for some reason there's some real hot spots around a house that got a big waiver. Well, I just talked to this Arlington County guy about these huge rain tanks that will warm Robin Barr's heart, because he likes rain barrels, and these are even bigger and better. And maybe you say, this is a house that got too much of a waiver for its rooftop runoff, because that's what, that was what was waived. There's not enough room for dry wells. They should have some tanks. And, that's just what we have to do, because there's so many problematic lots, or lots where problems be created around. But the other houses that got the waivers, it's not an issue. And I think between the generic information that's true for all these jurisdictions, and some of the information the survey will pinpoint, some of the information that Haya is going to talk about where we know we already have rain gardens that people have put in, and conservation landscaping and permeable pavers, Where there were assessments and nothing was put in, maybe we can get the assessment data on that. There's some information we can put together without having a sort of, house by house, lot by lot, driveway by driveway kind of collection of data.
What you're saying is it's not so important how we got here, is that we are here, right? Like we don't know if it's,
Some pinpointed data will help.
but there were things we can do to help the stormwater runoff.
Yeah, and they're generic.
Before we leave the discussion, I want to point out something about the county code, which is that it doesn't actually talk about impervious surfaces and lot coverage. It talks about managing water on the site. And that's the direct approach. In other words, what you are really asking developers to do is manage the first 1¼ inches, or whatever the heck it is, of rain on the site. And what they get waived is how much of that they capture. Then all of the other issues become contributors to managing it. The percentage of impervious surface makes it more difficult to manage. Okay, rain gardens makes it easier to manage, and so on. So, and dry wells make it easier to manage too. But the best thing we could do if we had the money to do it would be to find out what each house in Somerset holds on its land now in terms of the percentage of rain that comes down. And if we had that information, we would be in a much better place than we are now in terms of recommendations forward. I don't think we can do that, but that's the mindset to have when we're trying to think about regulation.
Well, I don't know, Robin, I think you can figure that out based on typical absorption from beds and lawns, and figure the rooftop is.
If you think we can do a reasonable estimate of it, then by all means try it. There are so many different factors on different properties, though, that I'm not sure the average is going to be able to be representative.
Well, I think slope is a big one, but I think you can get some numbers, and they're pretty big, even from an average sized lot with an older house that's not that huge, and most of the runoff from the roof going, not even being an overland runoff situation.
Well, if you can do that and people are satisfied with it, then by all means go ahead. As I said, slope certainly is a big one, but it's also what you've got growing on your land. Conservation landscaping, rain gardens, etc., do make a difference. And so you've somehow got to make a record of that too.
Yeah.
One of the things we were told at one point, I think in the beginning, that there is some money in the budget if we needed some expertise. So I think it's important to talk about things as we've been doing, because there's some questions we want asked. There's some questions we probably need to have answered. And so I think one of the things as you're going through, if there are experts that you think are absolutely necessary, continue to talk about them. But I don't think we're at the point yet where it makes sense looking at hiring anybody. I think that it seems in most of the conversations I've had with people in the committee that engineers seem to be the one person or group of people out there that could provide some answers in terms of solutions. May not be able to look back, but maybe look forward. So if you're thinking about that and think that there's some information that we can't solve this problem without, bring it up that at your subcommittee or at the monthly meetings, or I don't know. I keep thinking about it too. I think one of the things there are some answers, and there's a lot of knowledgeable people out there who will probably tell you a lot of things for free. and who will help guide you to other places and other people. And then there may come a time when you think, I can't go any further, but this is so important. We've got to know the answers. And I think it's at that point where we want to talk about possibly getting some funding for having more than just all of us trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Ellen. That's something that we were, Hi and I, the construction subcommittee were discussing over the weekend is, so I, reached out to Brian. I'm going to reach out. Well, I've reached out. I'm going to reach out again, talk to my son is in grad school in structural engineering. So he knows very little bit about this, but he's going to refer me to, I want to talk to, someone who this is what they do, and also maybe even get my hands on some resources. It was a textbook or whatever, but try and make some progress that way. But I agree with you. I think we need, if we're going to go that route, we need to know very concretely what is it exactly that we want. And I think we probably need to be more focused and know more than we do right now to do that.
Right. And also, what are we going to do with, as Julie said, what are we going to do with the information? I mean, you may have the information, but maybe there's nothing you can do with it. So I think
I think that feels a little defeatist. I mean, it may be that there's a clear and obvious answer, like mandatory driveway renewals that are, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, wouldn't be defeatist before we collect information.
Well,
but otherwise, then we could have that same defeatist attitude about almost any of our subcommittees.
Well, next month's speaker on the 17th of March is going to be a person that I think could move us forward a lot on solutions and the scale and solutions and location of solutions. It's the head of a place called the Low Impact Development Center. And it's based, I think, in Beltsville. It was a person recommended by Jeff Lape, who, as you may know, worked for years and years on Chesapeake water quality issues for the EPA. And Neil Weinstein, the head of it, is talking tomorrow morning with Jan and Haya and me to learn about Somerset and what we've already done, because we told him we're not at sort of, stormwater runoff 101. We've made some progress. Certainly the town of Somerset itself has invested in some rain gardens. The county has a dry swale. The Somerset School has a dry well installed and put more permeable material underneath its the athletic field when it was redone. We have, a lot of people in town, and Haya is going to talk about it, have taken advantage of the Rainscapes program. We've done things, and the question is now, what's next? We clearly still have a problem. And so I think Weinstein is a nationally recognized expert in exactly this question. And so I think that his knowing, because he wants to prepare, so, about and learn about our circumstances, I think what he presents is not going to be sort of a, well, here's what, on a 35,000 foot level, this is what places do. It's going to be, here's what Somerset should think about. And of course, he won't have the specifics lot by lot, but I think he'll be able to sort of give a hierarchy. Here's a first priority, here's a second priority, here's a third. And then that can steer us better to find out, do we have the information to come up with a carrot or a stick or both for these things? And how big do they have to have an impact? Then I think so it's not that I don't hear what people are saying and don't agree that we need more information, but I think and that's what motivated us to sort of reach out to him. So I think we're on the same page on that. I just have the feeling, though, that we're not as unique and don't have to get as granular about things to get this prioritization in our heads and to begin to work more, explicitly and, in a focused way on those things that he helps us identify. So that, I have pretty high hopes, and hopefully tomorrow we can, really give him the information that will allow him to sort this out in his head.
Yeah, I mean, I think things may well play out that way, that we really have enough information. I think in my mind anyway, whether or not we will depend on a lot of things, including probably most importantly, what is it that we're considering doing? So if we're considering doing things, that are going to have a significant impact either on current homeowners or on, potentially new homeowners, people who want to buy a lot and, build a house, they're going to have, significant implications for them, how big a house they can build, cost, expense, investment, and all that. Then, I think we're going to want to be very confident that we've assessed the problems correctly, and that we are really confident about the solutions. We have found the right solutions for us that have the least possible impact on homeowners while accomplishing the goals that we decide we want to be accomplished.
Yeah, that's true.
Because everything's going to have, every single thing that we adopt will have costs associated with it. There will be negative effects. So we just want to make sure we pick the right ones and implement them properly.
Okay. Is that it for construction? Yes, it is. Impacts on stormwater?
So Julie,
One of the Julies.
one of the Julies, yeah. Other Julie.
It's also, yeah, okay.
You're muted.
Julie
Yeah.
Abrams is muted.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like she's.
She doesn't look muted, but she is muted.
Am I muted?
No,
No,
Julie.
you're not.
Abrams is muted.
There you go.
There you are, yeah.
You need to use your microphone. No, not hearing you.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
Julie, you might just try signing out and signing back in. Sometimes that.
Brian, maybe you should start and then Julie can come back.
Yeah, I can, I'm happy to start. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, I'm going to give my little part with much trepidation now because I'm not a tree expert. And I feel the same way that I'm ill-equipped to determine whether the data I'm looking at really is a contributor or driver of the problem. But it is interesting data. So my part of it was we were given the tree removal permits that were related to new construction going from basically 2011 until early 2020. So that's about 10 years. I'm going to make this interactive. How many new construction related tree removal permits do you think were issued in that period from 2011 to 2020? Michael Rourke. Or anybody. You don't have to raise your hand.
172.
What, 172 new, you think there are 172 tear downs in our neighborhood in 10 years?
Trees.
No, oh, okay, you're going with trees. All right, you know what?
I'm going to say less than 10.
All right, the answer was 24 properties had tree removal permits. And in fact, it was 167 trees. That's remarkably close.
Wow, Michael, look at you.
So Michael, you may have more expertise than you realize in this subject matter.
Don't ask me twice.
All right,
I'm done for the week.
I'm going to challenge Ed with the next one. What do you think the average diameter of those trees was?
Geez.
Sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, I'll be quiet. That's fine. Just want
All right, let's see. Diameter. I'm gonna say.
I think it's taken. What is it, Robin? It's taken from 4 feet off the ground. I think is where they take it. Something like that.
2 feet 8 inches.
2 feet in 12 inches, 1 foot. A lot of small trees, actually.
1 foot. So a lot of small trees. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of small trees removed, actually. And then my last interactive question is: of the 167, Courtney Lapson, how many do you think were replaced? Were required to be replaced as part of the tree removal permit being granted?
Out of 167?
Out of 167.
Have been replaced or required to be replaced?
Okay, good follow-up. All right, and here's the deal. I do not know the answer to whether they have been, because you pay a bond. We've been asking the town for data on whether you get the bond back when you plant your tree. The town so far has not been able to provide us with data on whether those bonds have been paid back, but let's presume people do what they were supposed to do. So what was on the permit in terms of how many had to be replaced out of 167?
Pretty close to 167, I would guess.
Yeah, it's 138, and a lot of the reason for that is that if you take down non-canopy trees and agree to replace it with a canopy tree or something larger, then you could have a 3-to-1 trade-off or something like that. Another piece of data that was interesting is that nearly half of them were in poor condition, meaning they were listed as either hazardous or dead or half dead. Not sure what that means. It's a technical term, I guess. But there was something wrong with them, 80 out of 167, which surprised me. I don't know what we make of this data. My takeaways, I was surprised at how many were in poor condition. And then it makes me wonder, is this actually a driver of the renewal of our tree stock in ways that we hadn't imagined, right? That maybe you wouldn't have taken it down, but since you're building a new house there, you actually take it down and plant something new. So that's kind of interesting. The fact that so many of them are replaced, and when they're not, it's because a bigger tree is going in, also makes me wonder. Now you're replacing a mature tree with a less mature tree, so you lose some cover there, presumably. But basically, it's meant to be more or less a 1-to-1 replacement. So that's it. That's the data from the new construction related tree removal permits. Julie Abrams is going to look at some of the other tree removal permits that were not related to construction.
Right,
Thanks.
just any, and just, yeah, and just, what'd you say?
I said, thanks for the fun game, Brian, though.
Yeah, so fun. Yeah, just that we're still getting all of the raw data, and then I'll input it all in one swoop. But just so you know, the town couldn't provide us the files because they don't have them in findable form of all tree removal requests over the last 10 years. So we're basically literally looking through town journals, paper or electronic. So it's been a bit of a hunt anyway, which is kind of irritating. So the other thing I would say, just in terms of adding on to what Brian said, in terms of both the old and the sort of 1-for-1, et cetera. So 2 issues. One is the canopy cover, which I'll talk about briefly when we get to our section, but the other is the tree diameter. And that has absorption implications because it's on a per diameter basis. So a newer tree that's, I don't know, whatever, 6 inch or something versus 2 feet diameter is actually going to have a very different stormwater and water absorption capacity. So even though it's a new tree, it doesn't change, aside from the beauty, et cetera, and the canopy, which because the angle of leaves actually slows down water flow, believe it or not. So it is, even if it's 1-for-1, and we don't know if it is yet, we're trying to find out more about that. It's not truly 1-for-1. And then the other thing I would just add in terms of, and this is I learned from walking around the neighborhood, talking to a town council member who was walking her dog. That's how you get information. She said, this is Barbara Zoyhauser, she said that the town budget does not have a bonds line item, meaning unless they've actually tracked it on a per transaction basis, the budget isn't showing when the money's going out for coming in for bonds or being refunded, which is how we would know and have evidence that the replanting indeed happened. So we're still waiting to hear from the town if there's some records of that. So we're finding a lot of lack of records, frankly, in the town record keeping data management information.
Yeah, and just to jump in there, it's like this may end up being part of our recommendations that aren't directly related to stormwater. Is that how do you track and manage this data in a better way?
Yes.
The reason I know some of them were replaced is because there's a handwritten annotation on the tree removal permit, well after it was approved, showing that the bond was paid back, right? Or paid and then reimbursed, but not all of them have that sort of handwritten.
Did you keep track of trees that are, trees that absorb a lot of water and have a large canopy versus trees that just might have been taken down that were kind of what I would call trash trees, trees that just don't have that much benefit and then were replaced by a better tree? I mean, are you keeping track of what was removed and what it was replaced with?
Yes, I don't have enough expertise to know what's trash and what's not, but I have noted the type of tree that was taken down and its size, of course, and then the type of tree that was scheduled for the replacement. The replacement, oftentimes they gave the homeowner a choice of several different trees, but presumably they were all more or less the same category. So that's part of the database that, again, we could hand over to the town if that's useful. It'd be very easy to maintain going forward.
Yeah. And one thing we are going to do is, so Brian very helpfully said which were canopy or not based on what we think. And then once we have all the data from the other stuff I add, I think we'll double check with the town arborist just to confirm that of these species of trees, which are canopy and are not, because there's some implications because of that leaf coverage, broadly speaking, of a canopy versus a non-canopy tree in terms of stormwater. So we want to both say for our database, but then going forward, what the implications would be as well.
Is it, all right, now we're really getting into the weeds, so to speak, on
No
on
pun
trees,
intended.
but yeah, no pun intended, but is it really just about the canopy, or is there anything about the root system too, that some are more absorbing than others? Or is it really the canopy that's the driver?
So, I mean, I'm in charge of looking at the roots issue. So there's general rules of thumb of how much water absorption in gallons roots can absorb for a tree. I wasn't planning to do it per species. I mean, if people really care, I guess I can possibly do that. But honestly, it was more based on diameter of the tree and the implications of the roots. I'm sure there's inter-tree variation, obviously, by what kind of root systems, et cetera. But I was not thinking to go into that level of detail unless you guys like scream that we must have that, and I'm hoping you don't. So.
I think we'd like to see you try, just because it'd be entertaining, see if you could really become that much of a tree expert, but unless we decide it's really necessary.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're looking sort of broad stroke absorption for stormwater and water slowage for stormwater. And then all of this, as Brian said, to hand it over, because this is what trees have been removed. But as I'll talk about, there's implications for therefore what kind of the general current tree inventory of the town. But anyway, sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Does it make any sense to have the town arborist maybe come and talk about, trees that would help, if planted, absorb water for certain types of lots and recommendations, trees that aren't good to plant, trees that are good to plant, which ones do well with a lot of water? Because that's another problem. A lot of trees don't like a lot of water, and and also shrubs and stuff.
Right. So different ones have different absorption capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that would be interesting, but I think I would rather have the database finished because I feel like I'd ask more informed questions. And also if we've shared with all of you the results of the entire database, including trees removed besides just for construction, I feel like we would be asked smarter questions, frankly.
And I think that's a little bit too much at the granular level for us to deal with, because if we're looking at broader things, I mean, we can make a recommendation. We don't have to say what specific type of trees.
No, I'm just saying in terms of the public, of people who are living in the town of Somerset and don't really care whether they plant this kind of tree or that kind of tree, but they've got a water issue. They want to know what's the best tree to plant, what will grow, what will absorb water, what will give me the canopy. And just, not forcing people to, but just, if I knew that this was a better tree than that tree for this particular soil, I'd plant that tree.
No, I agree. I think at this point in time, just as far as us right now, trying to get through all the stuff that we're doing, as we get further on with more specifics.
Yeah.
I was also thinking, I mean, if the group was interested, great, but based on Jan's comments, maybe not. What I'm thinking, and I'm sort of adding Julie and Brian here, they may not like this, but that our some committee could maybe have a quick call with the town arborist about, and he, right, I think it's he, could just give us that kind of intel pretty quickly, and then we could include it in our report, because I do think it's a really interesting point, Ellen, and especially if we're looking at stormwater and general implications, frankly. But so
I
if
agree.
you guys be cool with that, we could just put that on our to-do list. If everyone else is dying to hear it, great. But I feel like these meetings are pretty long. Yeah, exactly. TMI for
Yeah,
you
no,
guys.
that's fine, but maybe at one of the town forums or something. I'm just looking at something that will give people ideas that they can, not just having the, all the things that government can do, but also if you have to do something and you have a choice, what would you do? Same thing with
I don't mean, as I get, I'm going to give a report on resources, and I'm just going to say, I've been looking at the Rainscapes program pretty closely, and on their website, they have lists of all kinds of water absorbing plants and trees, native plants and trees and stuff like that too. So it's out there. It's just not specific here in Somerset.
Okay, so are we ready for the next resources and expertise committee?
Wait, Julie, did you give yours already?
No, yeah, I have something that sort of bridges them.
And then I have something brief after that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you want to go ahead and do climate change, finish up, and then I'll.
Oh, yeah, just so we're going to include just broad information about what is the impact of climate change. And again, climate change is over long periods of time, and then there's measures of rainfall over, a 24-hour period and that kind of thing. So we're just sort of trying to contextualize it, because to put what people are anecdotally feeling about, there's more water coming down and it's coming down more quickly and in greater volume. But so just to, make that in the bigger picture. And then secondly, looking at, as I alluded to, the issue of the canopy and the roots as well, in terms of the implications, both for trees removed, but then what could be kept as well. So just kind of looking at the broader information about that. We'll put that in our reports.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through some sort of bottom line topics that I put together from thinking on this issue, about thinking of the issues emerging from other impacts on stormwater runoff besides construction, and besides this issue of the trees and their absorption and climate change. And so this is sort of what I'm going to lay out tomorrow with Jan and Haya about where Somerset is. What are the big picture items? And then Haya and Jan are going to sort of fill in on one more thing that we're going to present tomorrow to Neil. So I'm going to share my screen on this. Okay, so all of these sort of bottom line topics have, a lot of them have some calculations or analysis behind them, and all of those calculations and analyses are written up, and I'm going to be sharing them soon, a lot, and they're in reports that will have some other components that other subcommittee members will add in. So basically we're dealing with overland stormwater runoff. That is the issue. It affects water quality in streams. It damages people's property, and it can poison relationships among residents. We do have a slope, and that's because our town elevation changes from about 100 feet from the high point to the low point. Our soils are not the best, but on most lots, I am finding when I look at actual soil test results, there are many places with soil that is sufficiently permeable for green infrastructure, like dry wells and rain gardens, or that can be amended to allow permeability. Now, as you may remember, when we had Groundsmith Collective, Kelly Olofsson speak to us, there's compaction during construction that creates some problems on homes with, or lots with new homes, but those are not an issue on some of the other lots in town. Unfortunately, due to where we have public land available and the width of our streets, there is very little low-hanging fruit for measures on public land and streets to reduce runoff over land or on streets. So we're really stuck, with private lots and what they can do to reduce overland runoff. 93% of the homes in Somerset have rooftop runoff that is almost invisible because it's conveyed from their property by sanitary sewer, storm sewer, or a combination. We're not going to be rebuilding any of that. When you put in a new home, you can't use it. But it's sort of there, it's in the background, and that some of it can damage, if it goes in the storm sewers, it does come out in the creek and it causes water quality problems, but it's not, there's not an easy way to get to that unless you disconnect your gutters and then have to cope with the water on site, and not a lot of people are doing that. But there's still significant overland runoff that comes from your average lot because of other impervious surfaces like driveways and patios, lawns and even plant beds have some runoff in heavy rain. So my estimate on an average lot of about 8,800 feet, a median lot, is that in a 1-year rainfall of about 2.6 inches, there's 3,000 gallons of runoff.
Julie, I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second. Can you tell me why, when did that rule change again? In other words,
2010.
what did you say?
2010 was when.
Okay, so presumably 7% of the homes have been rebuilt since then. That's what we're
Yes,
saying.
that's what I'm saying, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So this slide strays into the impacts of construction subcommittee territory, and I sort of I mentioned this earlier, that when you are required by Montgomery County regs to put in green infrastructure to hold on to a certain amount of water, it's basically 1.8 inches. If it's not waived, you actually produce less overland runoff in most rainfall events. Actually, as you start to think about it and think of the number of homes for which this regulation can be enforced, we're actually handicapped in our capacity to reduce overland runoff because the rate of demolition and rebuild is so low. It's only about 3 houses a year. And there is no requirement for retention of runoff from these smaller renovations, which is about 4 to 5 houses per year when it's, you know, not completely rebuilt house.
So a renovation has different standards than new construction.
Right, if it's completely demolition, that, you know, you demolish the house, you rebuild it, you have to retain stormwater. If you know, add on 1,000 square feet, anything that's theoretically above, what is it, 400 and less than 5,000 feet disturbance on the lot, then you fall into this category that you have to come up with a drainage plan, and all that means is you can't increase the amount of water going to neighboring lots, but you don't have to retain or reduce the amount of runoff.
So that sounds like maybe a window to expand our 3 to 4 up to 8 to 10 a year, if we wanted to.
Yeah. Yes. Right. If there was, in fact, there is, town of Chevy Chase does a more comprehensive job with its regulation for smaller renovations.
Okay,
That's one of the things that is significant, they feel, I think, about their regulations, because they feel Montgomery County is lax about these drainage plans, and they do, they look at the quantity of runoff and require that it be retained. They are not looking at, their standards are not based at all on the water quality standards that Montgomery County are based on. It's just plain old amount of water that runs off, and you know, there's a couple different standards, and you have to retain water from whichever of the couple standards leads to the greatest amount of retention. So yes, you're right, that is something that if town of Somerset wanted to go beyond Montgomery County regulations and say, well, for these smaller renovations, we want some reduction in runoff, not just that you can have the same amount or even more. It just can't go to a neighbor. You can't increase what the neighbor is getting. Then that is an area to examine. So yeah, good point.
And just supplementing that slightly. So, I mean, besides renovation of the house, I mean, as you guys know, sometimes people will do a change on their lot with impervious surface. So just an example, my neighbor had sort of a grassy area between the front and back lawn, and then put a path, and another neighbor did that too of concrete. So, I mean, it's fine with me. It's not that, but the point is there's now more impervious surfaces on both of those houses, lots, that probably is not recorded anywhere. So, I mean, if we end up thinking about implications of renovation, you know, we should look at, again, somebody wisely said, what are we trying to accomplish here? And then anything we're talking about recommending should address that. So anything with renovations, that's for the runoff, but then anything for additional impervious surfaces added on a lot in any fashion is something just to consider also as something that does have an impact on our topic.
Yeah. I
Oh,
was-
definitely, and adding pools. Yes, Courtney, definitely. Well, that's major, but that's the impervious surface, but lots of it, yeah. So, although I
Yeah.
guess the stormwater can all go in the pool, but anyway. Yeah.
No, I think that's a productive way to think, to think about sort of new criteria for bringing, the surface increases and not just stay with what the county has defined. So yeah, definitely, I think that's a productive direction to think about. So now, as I mentioned, there's also a substantial amount of voluntary, green infrastructure infrastructure that's been voluntarily installed. And it's 7% of lots that aren't these real built houses have installed green infrastructure, conservation, landscaping, rain gardens, permeable pavers, dry wells, and rain barrels. And you're going to see a map very soon that shows where these are. And then there's 6% of lots were assessed by Rainscapes and didn't install anything, and we don't know why. So we're hoping to find out more about that. So as I said, with these findings in mind, along with the information about the location of the public green infrastructure, where the town has put in the rain gardens and where the county has put in a dry swale and all that, that's the information we're going to talk to Neil about tomorrow. So I think with the map of what we've done voluntarily, with information about the construction and the trends in construction, with something about the public green infrastructure, I think we can paint a picture for him that will start him thinking very productively about where we can go. He's also very familiar with Montgomery County regulations. He knows what the state does because he's very familiar with everything happening in Maryland and actually beyond. So I've got my hopes up. I really think that, I'm just so thankful that Jeff Lake recommended him. And I think he's going to be really, really an asset to have as a speaker.
Great. Does that conclude your subcommittee report?
Yes, I think so.
Great, thank you.
It was going to end, and it is. So, yeah. Thank you, June.
And next is resources and expertise.
Hi, I think I'll start and then you can show the map afterwards. So we've been, okay. I've been calling landscape architects and different people and trying to find trade associations of people that deal with, in Montgomery County or associations or something. And so far, the best I've found that's easily available is the Montgomery County Rainscapes division, which is in the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Services. And because the meeting's so long, I'm going to cut this short, but they do have a program where they give expertise and a tax rebate if you install. I'm going to just list real quickly the things that they help you find out about and will give a tax rebate on. And then I'll explain a little bit more, but you get up to $20,000. They'll give you a rebate for rain gardens, conservation landscapes, permeable paving, pavement removal, cisterns, rain barrels, and green roofs. And because the meeting's going long, I'm not going to describe each of them, but on their website, which I can put the website on the on our Google Drive thing, you can get money for that following their rules and their rebate stuff, which is all on the website. They will also come out, they don't come because of COVID and they're reorganizing now. So before they would come out and do an assessment for people in Montgomery County on what would be good for their property. They would look at your topography, your type of soil, talk to you about what problems you're having and that type of stuff and make recommendations. They are no longer doing on-site assessments. They may not start doing, it's a question whether they're going to start doing them again, but they will do them on video. You can work out with them and make an appointment on video. The other thing that they have that I thought was really interesting on their site is they have the section called Choosing a Professional. And they give guidelines for people of what you should look for if you're looking for somebody, a landscape architect or a designer or a company to do that. And they offer classes for all these people and companies. So they have a 21-page listing of every company that has taken their classes. It's not a certification, it's not a recommendation, but it shows at least they went through some education with the Rainscapes program. And then the other thing I found out, which I haven't had time to follow up on more, but just in the last year, in Maryland, there's now 2 certification programs that certifies landscape designers and architects for designing, installing, and that rain gardens and that type of thing, and making. And one is the National Green Infrastructure Certified Professional, and the other is the Chesapeake Bay Landscape Professionals. And I thought I'm going to reach out to those 2 certification programs and just see what information they have and what they offer. And then, so Haya is going to talk a little bit about that already the Rainscapes program has kept track of how many houses in Somerset they've done assessments for, and then how many houses went ahead with the project, and which, and actually got the, we're not quite sure what kind of tax rebate, but a tax rebate. So Haya.
Sorry, Jan, do you have those figures or no? Or they're gonna
Haya has them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
I am muted.
You're muted, Haya.
Haya. Oh, it doesn't help.
She's got my curse. Oh no. So.
No, she's.
No, she wants to come in. I let her in once, and a couple minutes ago,
But she's on mute.
She's on
You're on
mute now,
mute.
though.
Can you unmute yourself? There.
There she is again.
She's still. There's 2
Okay,
Hayas.
There she is.
hear me now? All right, I'm gonna hang this up.
oh, there she is.
So weird. We see 2 different versions of you.
I turned off my phone. Okay, what happened was my computer wasn't plugged in and it just ran out of juice at that moment. So, oh my gosh. Okay, here we are. You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Jan, I missed whatever you just said, but I'm just going to show you the website, which I was pulling up when we left. So, oh, I need to share my screen. Hang on a second. Share screen. Here we go, screen. Okay. Shoot. Sorry, you guys.
Can you make it full screen, High, on your
Yeah,
screen?
I'm trying to. I'm
Yeah,
just trying
thanks.
to. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Here we go. This is a map on the Rainscapes website of the town of Somerset and all of the installations that have been done here. Okay, actually, okay, I can make this full screen. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but that's fine. You sort of
I've
did.
forgotten how to do that. So that you actually, did you explain about their website or no? Let me explain what's going on here. I'm going to go back to the top of this. This is on the Rainscapes website that says Rainscapes neighborhood, town of Somerset. There were 7 such neighborhoods that they had, and they just updated this like yesterday because I called them and said, what's going on? They've discontinued these programs. So these neighborhood programs were, what it meant was that the special thing that so there were 7 neighborhoods where the Rainscapes people were trying to go out and recruit people in the neighborhood to put in projects, to do projects. That's what has stopped. What has not stopped is Rainscapes is still there to help people. They had through 2019, you could get a free site assessment. They're no longer offering those. I think they just were overwhelmed. But they said that this project where they were trying to have certain neighborhoods where they were really trying to encourage people to go out and put in installations, they said it just was not financially feasible. So financially viable. So they just stopped doing it. And that was a while ago. But this was started by Sarah, not actually started by, but Sarah Morse was the point of contact way back then, which didn't surprise anyone. So this is the map. And you can actually go on the Rainscape site. There's a map of the entire county and every single thing in the county. You can zoom in anywhere. I mean, you can zoom in on Somerset as well, but you can see this kind of thing for the entire county.
What do the different colors mean? The green, dot, the yellow?
Different colors mean, and I don't remember what they mean, but I can toggle around.
A green is a
that's
rainscape, and the gold color are conservation gardens, which aren't, they're mostly done with, they don't hold the water, but they've planted with natural plantings and stuff. Whereas the rain garden, and the green is the rain garden, that's what actually holds and percolates water.
Okay, so
going
that is,
And then what are the orange
here's Jan's house.
perimeters? Oh, what are the orange
I think
perimeters?
that's where they've done, I think those are where they've done assessments. But so for instance, this is my house, we put one rain garden in, and you get a different amount of a rebate. So we did one rain garden and 3 conservation gardens on our property. So that's what that shows there.
Oh, okay, good, yeah.
And I think, I don't know why it's a double lot, but I don't know why. But anyway, I think the oranges are where they've done assessments, but the people didn't go ahead, or maybe they did go ahead with the project, they didn't apply for a rebate.
Right. And there may also be other rain gardens and conservation landscaping in the town that didn't apply for a rebate and therefore are not shown here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, it's just the rainscape. So what we've done is we've sent out a survey, or not, we started sending out not a survey, but a questionnaire to everyone. We have everyone on this list. Julie actually went through and figured out which every house was, but also the people at Rainscape sent me a file with a list of the homes that did this, the addresses. And we're going to just ask them, what did you have done? Did you like it? Were they helpful? Was it worth it? Does it help the problem? How much? Well, you don't have to tell us how much it costs, but if you want to, that's good. But like, do you feel like it was worth it to spend that money? And any questions we can think of. Yeah.
And so at the end, just with expertise, and then I think we're done at high, we were thinking, when we're all, as we go through this whole process, a fun thing might be to see who's done some of these projects and stuff. And as the weather, post pandemic, and as weather gets nice, maybe in the next couple of years, or do a tour of different rain gardens and stuff. Which might be a fun activity, and rather than for me regulations. Yeah.
I forgot to mention that they are very helpful there. Like, I just asked her, she said, we don't do the site assessments anymore, but, she told me, like, in 2 minutes what you need to do to have a rain garden. And so they're there to answer questions and just to give assistance. So it seems like a good place. Plus there's financial incentives. So.
I would just say for the report, this is amazing and really interesting. I realized all this great granular data. I guess I would just suggest when we do, or when you guys do the report, just, and maybe I'll do this, but just explain what a rain garden is, because everyone in town may not know what a rain garden is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. No, this is just for you guys. Yeah.
No, it's super cool though. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, right? Stop share.
Okay, so last thing I just want to talk about, and I know it's been a long time, so maybe we'll just take a few minutes. Is we're supposed to have a town forum. We're supposed to have 2 of them. So my thinking was to do it sometime in the spring, and we could use the survey and the do a short synopsis of the survey, what we found, and answer questions and all of that. But there's been a lot of really good information tonight. I know that some people feel that, they don't have enough expertise, but I think you're learning more than you think you are. So if we were to do something in like late April, which of your committees have an item or something that you think you could expand enough to do a 10 or 15 minute presentation about what you've learned so far? I mean, and I'm not asking you to make it up, because we're also going to ask people what they think and have people talk and all that. But in terms of putting this forum together, besides the survey, what else do you think we should do?
I guess I have more of a question first. Sorry, Ellen. So I don't know if this was the mandate from the town council. I guess to me, it seems like if we have, the survey is very specific, so that's great. But if everyone else is kind of in process and we haven't finished all the information, and given how Somerset residents tend to take something and run with it and grab it and critique it and criticize, I just wonder if it would make more sense, besides maybe give us survey findings, because that's a discrete task if we really have to. But I guess I would think, can we just have one where we actually have all the information and we've finished, and so it's more conclusive? Or are we mandated to have two? I just feel like it's sort of opening, to me, a cans of worms, to be honest. I don't know.
What about the tree survey? Was that something that, or do you think that's something that we should keep, that we should work into our plans for recommendations? Or, because I found that very interesting, how many trees were taken down, how many were replaced. I think there's a
yeah, I mean, I guess since it's, it's because, like, just for our internal purposes, I think it's amazing and fantastic to hear all these reports. I'm learning a lot, but I guess, we've all lived here for a while, so it just, people sort of take the information and go all sorts of directions. And I feel like until we have, we're not going to know it all, as Ed said, we definitely won't. But we'll know what we do know and what we don't know, and what we think and what we're recommending or not recommending, or saying we don't have the knowledge to recommend or whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like I would want to do the tree survey when we have the broader picture that we're also presenting, because people are going to start asking all sorts of stuff, and we're going to be like, well, we're in process. Well, we're thinking about that. Well, we're not finished. And it just seems like it's just making everything more problematic. That's just my off the top
It's not an option. It's in the charter.
Okay. Well, that's fine. So, but I mean, the survey, I guess, well, so the town survey, maybe that, as I said, is a very clear focus. I don't know. I mean, Brian's off now and Julie, you're here. But
what about the Rainscape program? Because
that would be great.
I think that's we have what's been done in the last X number of years, and we can work more with Rainscapes and stuff and get the data, as up to date as we can, kind of couch it that we're looking at regular, I don't even know if I want to say anything about regulatory and stuff, but we could say one of the things that we found that's going on right now, and that if you're really interested and you want to do something now, is the Rainscapes program, and X number of people have done this, just because it turns out so many people don't know about it. I think it's a short thing about that.
Can you talk to as many of the people and sort of, by end of April, have had conversations to find out where it's worked, what they did, whether they do it again, et cetera, just sort of.
Yeah, I think that's kind of giving something positive and not getting in. Well, I'm always worried about getting into the nitty gritty too much about talking about, well, we're looking at regulations, or this or that. I just.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah.
Julie says, I just can't imagine people getting their teeth into that right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Julie Greenberg, do you, the tree thing, that is sort of factual. We could do that. Do you want us to do that or not?
Well, I think actually that as long as we do not separate out the construction and the other permits, as long as we have a body of information that says it's important to get a handle on tree removals in town. And we're trying to do that as part of our work, and we don't dwell on it, and we just sort of say prospectively, we want to look forward as to how we can rejuvenate our stock of trees. I think we can make it, we can keep the focus on the purpose and how we're putting information in place that hasn't been put in place, not spend too much time on it, but focus, I think, on this. The survey and the Rainscapes have the advantage that they are geographic. We have this geographic information, it's going to be very powerful. I think people are going to be really interested in it. The tree stuff can be because we are Tree City. And we're not leaving the society, and we're creating a new body of information that will help us keep this as Tree City. But don't, get into the nitty gritty of the construction stuff. That's the third rail.
I think that has to be presented maybe in the second thing. I think eventually we do need to show that, but I think this meeting, I guess, to the extent it can be based on what I'm going to call facts meaning, even if they're opinion facts, meaning the town survey, which are actually what we heard, And
Yeah.
then the rainscapes, which are factually what happened, and the tree survey, which are facts, because all the things that are more opinions, recommendations are
Yeah.
much more subjective and stable.
Right.
But I mean, I
And
don't
no
know.
regs, I think, don't talk about
No,
regulations.
no. But I mean, I guess the construction, I mean, I do think we should include construction, maybe not in the first form, just because that's a huge can of worms. But I do think it does have to be separated and disclosed as part of our overall findings, and therefore maybe the second form or whatever. Once
Yeah.
we're disbanding and they
Down the
can
road.
attack us. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah. But,
Anybody have, so if we did the survey, the rainscapes program and the tree survey, which probably won't, it's pretty factual. I don't think it'll take a long time. Is there anything else that you think could be ready for the April one? I agree. I don't think the more complicated, controversial ones.
Well, anything that's really based on primarily opinions of our committee, I don't think we should do the first until we have all our facts in order. That's my just.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the last piece of it that we really need to do, and we obviously have to do it carefully because we don't want to go near the third rails, is what is it that we're doing? I mean, I think people are going to want to know that. And so I'm wondering if we can present some kind of anodized, is that the right word, anodized? I think so.
Annotated.
Well, annotate, we could annotate
Or
it too,
whatever,
but
whatever.
I was thinking of
Anodyne. Yeah, you're boring.
Sanitized.
Anodyne. Sanitized anodyne.
version of what is it that we're doing? So we're trying to understand, maybe we actually, I think we probably say we're trying to understand the impact of, tree removal and construction impacts and both, so that we can understand the nature of the problem and then assess whether or not, there are changes that we would recommend, and leave it kind of neutral like that. But I kind of think we need to tell them what we're doing.
I think that should be first, not last.
Yeah, I think that should be first.
People probably have no idea.
no,
I mean,
I
if you're
agree
not
with
paying
that.
attention, you don't know. I wouldn't have known if I wasn't on the committee.
Right.
When we put out the survey,
Right.
it had a
Yeah.
lot,
Right.
had the explanation of what the purpose of the survey and
Yeah,
the
no, I think we could just kind of I thought that was really
Yeah,
well
that's pretty
written.
good, right?
Kind of redo that, the letter that you sent out, I thought in the town journal was good.
Very
Kind
good.
of like that, and mix in some of the, whatever the wording was from the charter or whatever that was passed that we did. And say that we are looking at a whole range of things.
And that this isn't the final report. This is just some interim factual findings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really, I mean, to the extent we can avoid or whatever, people
Right,
just
yeah.
getting all on our cases and opining and all that. I mean, people do it.
Oh, and
But,
also report on the speakers, just in
What?
a written form, just say, these are the speakers we've.
the speakers.
Oh,
Yeah,
these
that's
were
a good
gathered
idea.
That's
information.
good. Yeah, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
there'll be
again,
a
facts. Those
fee.
are those are facts. I think facts are
That's
good.
fact.
And that we've looked at what other jurisdictions in Montgomery County are doing. We're collecting information from them.
Well, just actually jurisdictions beyond Montgomery County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Across the
wouldn't look-
country.
But
I
I
mean,
wouldn't.
just so that it's not like, we're trying to do something that's never been done in Montgomery County before. I
Right,
mean,
right, right.
Other towns have
Well,
looked at these.
Well,
you
aren't
know.
people going to- I mean, I agree, but people are going to say, well, what have you found, or have you found it?
Oh, okay. Well,
Well, yeah, I would just say this is an interim partial report.
Yeah, we can play with all that, yeah.
Okay, I'm
And
not,
we can all leave, just leave you alone, Ellen, on the screen, and all of us will disappear.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that, do we have anything at all, like a tidbit, a couple things that we could say that we're looking at in the town of Chevy Chase or Garrett Park? Not just that we're talking to them, but is there something they have done that we're looking into, whether it could be done in Somerset?
Well, I mean, but again, it's not just those jurisdictions. We've got Arlington, we've got,
I think this, once we get the information from the survey, I have a feeling that'll be pretty meaty. I mean, I'm hoping, and we can, we can put it on a map, where people say there's a lot of problems, and we, depending on what we find, we can say surprisingly, it looks like there's problems everywhere in the neighborhood, or surprisingly it's on this thing, or we don't have to point out new construction. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff just to show.
That's kind of my inclination. There'll be a lot there.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm really hoping that it's not sort of a completely, sort of uniform, homogeneous problem everywhere, every street.
Yeah.
The best, I'm really hoping there are some places that are identifiable that we can actually focus on in a productive way. Who knows?
Yeah. Not that everyone's building an ark in their backyard.
A swimming pool without a swimming pool. Okay.
Yeah.
So could everybody, and I say this, could everybody write this down? Because I'm spending a lot of time chasing down stuff. Can you all send me from your subcommittee what you would say or what you would present if you were going to present at the forum, so that I can then have some menu from which to choose?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're saying the forum is in April?
That's what I'm thinking right now.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
And you said late April, yeah.
Well,
But you're,
the reason I was saying late April is I thought we should have our committee meeting where we can finalize it, and then
yeah,
it would
yeah,
follow that.
yeah, that would help, yeah, yeah. But we're only talking about those 3 topics, not every committee, what you could say, right? Because we like rules and regs, I think we agreed we actually don't want to talk for intentional reasons.
You have something that you
Yeah.
think
Okay.
is ready to go, it would be helpful, whatever, just write it up what it would be, send it to me, and then I'll make, I mean, I've got some good things here, but I'll have to put together agenda. And I also think that we should really try and publicize it so that a lot of people are watching it, and that people can, I'd like to hear from the people in the town about how, stormwater runoff's affecting them too. I think it's important for us to hear stories and what people are going through.
So this is further input actually to supplement the survey in a certain way. Okay.
So, I mean, the idea is maybe we take half of it and present something and then let people talk and
Tales of stormwater.
Yeah, maybe we even think about, if there are community members who we could even ask to speak, who would say more than, my basement floods, every 3 months, but maybe have, a story that, presents some insight into the nature of the problem. They used to not have problems, now they do.
So we could put out a call for stories.
They took measures and now it's better.
Yeah, or they took measures,
Yeah.
even better, yeah.
So ask
Maybe
people if they
one
want
of
to talk beforehand, yeah. But 5 minutes max each, right? I mean,
Yeah,
ask people what's worked. So
right.
We might be able to get that from the surveys.
Well,
Right.
our survey is going to be, and that survey questionnaire for the Rainscapes could definitely be good, because those are people who willingly put in projects, and there
Yeah.
might be some interesting
Yeah.
stuff there.
I think that could be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think town people want to hear? Do they want to hear the solutions, or they want to vent, or, I mean, I don't know. No, I mean, I'm
It's that they want to
serious.
vent. I don't know.
That's kind of what I
Somerset.
thought.
I'm having
They,
a
they,
kind
they
of
want
a
to kvetch.
I
negative
can give
view.
you the
but
names of the people who want to
think there
vent.
will
I
be
can
a
tell
lot
you who
of
they are.
venting. Yeah.
they want to vent and then they want solutions.
Yeah, but when they vent,
That won't impact them.
a lot of times it's going to bring in their neighbors. I would hate to have public venting because
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
they're going to cast aspersions, and they may or may not be accurate, and they
Yeah.
can't, I think success stories, if we can locate them, especially if they're, people that have done things that are not outrageously expensive, or that only they could do because of some special circumstance, they terraced their whole backyard or something, I think that would be productive.
And we'll start thinking of people who can tell a success story or a
Yeah.
success story. It's hard to know.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think it's great.
Okay. All right. So at the next meet, I think Michael signed off, did he not? Yes, he did.
Michael signed off, yeah.
Okay, he's the next. So no takers. I all sent you an email a couple months ago with what month you all had.
I didn't remember till I got tonight's, but that's fine.
Ellen, can you resend it?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I'll just add it to the next.
Are you feeling like you used to have 2 children, now you have 12?
Sorry.
I said I didn't know either. I was like, oh, she assigned me tonight. Okay, I guess I'll do it.
You sent that out?
I was kind of looking at, but I haven't even checked with the town to see, you know, what other meetings are going on. Our April meeting is the 14th. And so that's a Wednesday. I don't know if we have to do it on a Wednesday, but I was looking at the 21st.
For the forum?
Yeah.
Hey, Ellen.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one thing on scheduling, and I don't know if we selected Wednesdays, because that work for most people. Wednesdays are not good for me, and I don't know if, I mean, I'm guessing that there's one night a week that's bad for at least one of us, but I'd love to avoid Wednesdays if possible.
Well, I sent out an email and asked anybody who had problems, and nobody had a problem with Wednesdays. So we switched because somebody had a big problem with Wednesdays.
Tuesdays.
Oh, I'm sorry if I didn't respond to that. Yeah.
I got an email. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I would just say, Ellen, not in terms of nights, I need to figure that out, but if we're doing a meeting, for me, like having the forum 2 weeks after, I mean, I know a lot of us have like crazy life, work, home, everything scheduled. So just have 2 weeks between the meeting and the getting whatever we're presenting ready, for me at least, would be helpful, just so that's not quite such a quick turnaround, if that's possible. Like just maybe if we're doing it on the week of the 14th, 15th, whatever date, then have that forum 2 weeks later. Would that be possible?
I'll check and see if how does everybody else feel? Does it make any difference, or you think you need 2
If
weeks?
we have to have stuff in writing and everything, you know, like that people can look at after the forum, it might take 2 weeks after we have a meeting to have everybody review.
Okay, so I'll look at it, and so it doesn't, so what day of the week, because I don't know what days are available, what days of the week, somebody doesn't like Wednesday, so what other days don't work?
I only have a Thursday every other month, which I think I sent you the dates and I can resend, but other than that, I'm fine anyways.
Would Thursday, if it worked with Julie, could you check the date since you were asking for the following week, so the 28th, is that the 28th?
29th
29th?
would be the Thursday.
Julie, can you check and see if you're?
That's fine for me. That is fine for me.
Would anybody else have a problem with Thursday, the 29th? Okay, well, I will just check and see if that's available. How about that?
Mhm.
So now we have Thursday, so that's solved Ed's problem, and
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you all.
Sure.
Did you change our meeting though? That's the forum you're proposing, right? The 29th. So what were you making for the meeting? I'm
our
just putting
next
for the notes.
meeting is right now would be the 17th.
Okay,
We're
April
not going, I don't know,
March.
or March.
you know, we may all be celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
I know it is.
But is that a Wednesday? Ed said that's bad for him. The
No.
Wednesdays are bad for him.
We're doing,
No.
Wednesday. I just changed everything from Tuesday to Wednesday. I can't change it back now.
Oh, okay, okay.
But we're doing it St. Patrick. I mean, I'm not even Irish, but I mean, I don't know if anyone cares that.
Put
it would
green
be off
filters
party
on
or-
our screens.
Forum,
Not going to a bar, yeah.
we'll go to a Thursday if it's available. Not that we're trying to get a room. Okay, so that would be the 29th, and the 14th would be the next meeting. That's a Wednesday, okay? I'll send this all out, but please read the emails and please respond. Thank you.
And so March, we're going to do 17th for sure on March?
The only thing I have to check is that I think the Environment Committee meets on Wednesdays, but I think they meet earlier in the month. Robin, do you know?
It's usually the second week of the month, but you know, Barton's been running it for a while now, so he's the person to ask.
The second.
Barton Rubenstein.
Well, I need to double check that. Okay, all right, and I will do a new timetable and send that out as well. So that, anybody has anything else to add, or would you like to say goodnight?
I just need, if I could talk to my Julie, G, and Jan, like for 2 minutes after this meeting, maybe
Sure.
they could not sign off.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Just because I have a
Thank you,
question.
everybody.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you, Ellen.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you, Ellen,
Bye.
thank you, Ellen, for hurting us cats.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for all your work for the town. I really appreciate it. Okay, bye.
I'm not gonna change anything because I think he made me the moderator or something when.
If you're if you want to
Oh.
make one of us the host, then we
Oh.
can shut it down.
Yeah, that's right.
How I-
So,
Do
yeah,
that by,
you're the host. Ellen, you can just make one of us the host.
literally, let's just take a second. I can just,
Okay, I don't know how to do that.
you guys, oh.
You know, I'm
I don't know
gonna
how to,
leave the room and you,
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks,
doesn't
Ellen.
matter. Thank
Okay.
you, Ellen. We'll do this less than 5 minutes. You guys, so I sent out that
The questionnaire, yeah.
questionnaire, and I didn't ask people to sign their names, and like I'm getting responses now. And is there a way to tell who sent it in? Because I can't figure that out.
When it comes to you, what it goes to Google, it doesn't
That
come.
was
to
like
you
in
to
Google.
Google
I've done this before, but I forgot about the,
Yeah, and
When it comes in,
there
it
wouldn't be an
doesn't have any
email
identifying
associated
thing?
with it.
there's not an email associated with it. They just, whoops.
I've never used Google Survey, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, unless you had
Do I need to ask them who they are?
Yeah, you're gonna have to put that as a question to get it.
Okay, so now I'm gonna have to amend it because some people have
Oh, did
answered.
you sent it to everybody already? I didn't realize.
Not
I thought
everybody,
that
but to some people.
Oh, I thought it was a test. Yeah.
So you know
Yeah,
what
well-
you could do, Haya, is just go to the emails of everybody you send it to and say, forgot to
Yeah,
ask you to identify yourself. If you've already sent me a survey,
yeah,
I don't know, is
Yeah.
there a question that would be,
yeah. I'll do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like 2 came in during this meeting.
Oh, good.
So you
Well,
did, I know you already did yours, Julie. You were number
Yeah.
1, but if you didn't do it, Jen, you weren't number 2.
No, I didn't know if it was, I was going to ask you afterwards or tomorrow if this was a test. I wasn't sure because you said you were going to do it to a few people and I
No,
wasn't
did-
sure
this was-
what it was.
I sent it
Yeah.
to you 2 like a few days ago, and then I sent it out to not 7 more people tonight.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Like
well,
to
you-
friends.
I didn't know what was
Yeah.
happening.
yeah.
So-
These are friendly people, so that's a good reason.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah.
this to friends and.
That's,
you'll
yeah.
have to
So I'll
sort
just deal with that now.
Just
Okay.
Send
I
it
just
out to,
wasn't-
just send a note out to everybody that you sent it to and say, I forgot to ask you to include your names.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well,
okay.
that's
I
why
just-
you test it out.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Well, that's
And
No,
we
it
have
was
to work
good.
on the email that I send people, like, to the bigger group.
Yeah.
That's a little hard to compose, like, hi, I'm asking you more questions,
Yeah.
just, yeah. But-
Julie, I'm going to be there tomorrow, but I have to leave like at 10 till 10 for sure if we're still.
Okay.
talking. Okay. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
and
see you
I-
guys tomorrow morning. I forgot about that, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, has the decision been made on David's aunt or?
Oh, no, we're just trying to listen and not give advice. We have a 95-year-old aunt who has
Oh.
had heart problems and they want to do a procedure. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And I'm just trying to be a good listener. I don't think there's a right answer.
Yeah, yeah.
There's just not an answer. And if I give my opinion, it'll be held against me. No, but we have to be there to listen, which I don't mind doing at all.
Yeah. Oh,
So actually, it was really good to do this presentation tonight because it really, I think, crystallized in my mind where we want to go tomorrow on this call with Weinstein. That, the only other thing that I didn't mention tonight that I think I'll throw in is the what the town has already done. That has pretty much been all that can be done except for 2 projects that one the residents didn't want and the second is of questionable value. And after that, he'll know everything of it, where we are. And
What's the one that residents didn't want?
at the very end of Warwick, at the lowest point in the town, basically, there was a proposal to put in a rain garden just before you go into the woods on the path at the
They
end of.
didn't want it.
Oh, okay, right. Also, they're having the same problem with the woods as we are at our end. Or was that just for aesthetic reasons?
No, this is for water quality.
Okay.
It really, I don't know that any person wanted it, and none of the residents wanted that because they wanted that grass for a play area.
Oh, I know that
And-
area. So they
yeah,
didn't
and-
take the whole area. Oh.
So that was,
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, we ended up going longer, Ellen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Bye, bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Ellen.
Oh, just, Julie, your thing was great. Your
Oh,
presentation was really good. I learned some things from that. So thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.